Eden, the great good that Augustine refers to was formed out of Adam's side in Eden, and was Eve, a woman. In Eden, Adam, along with Eve, enjoyed harmony with God, with themselves, and with all of creation. This garden included various trees and rivers. Among the various trees were the tree of life that Adam and Eve were allowed to eat from, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the one tree they were forbidden to eat from. The following verses in Genesis read, "A river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers, Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates." Since water flows downward, this means that the Garden of Eden was situated in an elevated place. For this reason, explains Petrie, with reference to Jewish tradition, Ezekiel calls Eden the holy mountain of God. Petrie further explains that the ancient Jewish people identified Jerusalem built upon Mount Moriah with the site of Eden. One justification for this view is that the spring of the Gihon River is in Jerusalem and is still active today. It was fitting, therefore, that Jesus was crucified relatively near this site, since he is the source of living waters of eternal life. Jesus restores life from the very site that life was lost at. If, though, Eden is located in reference to rivers whose location is known, then Eden's location becomes problematic. This is because, explains Miller, and I quote, "The Gihon is a little stream in Jerusalem. There's no way to describe it as winding through the whole of the land of Ethiopia, which is Cush. The Tigris and Euphrates are rivers of Mesopotamia. There's no way to make them branches of a river in Jerusalem, yet alone in Ethiopia. And even the little details are wrong. The Tigris does not flow east of Assyria. It flows west of Assyria." Miller also proposes that these discrepancies are deliberate, which means that, and I quote, "Most Israelites reading this would realize how bizarre these directions are. I think the point of this bizarre travelogue is precisely to keep people from trying to find Eden, because there's no way to match these rivers up. And at the same time, because of what will happen in Genesis chapter 3, they want you to understand these events as taking place in real places on this earth. This isn't something that happened in a complete alternate reality, which means that the decisions that Adam and Eve make are intimately related to decisions you may or may not make. Sadly, due to the decisions they made, Adam and Eve were banished from the garden, and out of divine love prevented from eating from the central tree of life. For if they had continued to eat from this tree, they would have been condemned to an eternal state of misery on earth due to their acquired sinful state. The Hebrew word used for God driving out Adam and Eve from Eden is garash, a verb that is often used in reference to a woman who is cast out of a marital relationship by divorce, observes Miller. To be exiled from Eden, concludes Miller, means, I quote, "a loss of fellowship with God, a loss of marital relationship between God and human beings." In subsequent chapters after the fall, Genesis depicts man's life as decreasing from lifespans of 100 years before the flood to lifespans of under 200 years, such as Noah, who either symbolically or literally lived over 600 years, to Jacob, who in comparison only lived 104 years. Eventually, as testified by Psalm 90, men are listed as living a lifespan similar to ours, 70 years, or if, due to strength, 80 years. Psalm 90, verse 10. As Petrie astutely observes, the Genesis account of a progressive degeneration from original perfection to our current state is contrary to a common modern belief that human beings are progressing as time moves on. A Catholic response, in accordance with Jesus' own words, is that it is not an either-or question of whether the older is better than the newer or the newer better than the older. a trend particularly evident in our technologically advanced times, but rather is a question of what to revere from the past and what to appreciate in the present and what to preserve and possibly improve in the future. Every scribe trained from the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out of his treasure what is new and what is old. Matthew 13, verse 51.